there are three big no-code popular prototyping tools right now on the market. We've got VO, Replit, and Bolt. And today we are going to try to build an app with Bolt. And this is exciting because at Irrational Labs, we design a lot of onboarding flows, pricing pages, app interactions that drive user engagement. And so naturally, we're excited about any tool that promises to go from idea to code faster. And so today, with our deep dive into Bolt, we will go over a few things. Number one, why UX and UI designers are still needed in AI development, why AI should be less magical, and maybe the skill that non-coders like myself will need to build up. Okay, so here we go. So the first thing I did was come up with an app idea. I said, look, I want to have a gift tracker. I've given all of these amazing gifts over my lifetime, and I just kind of forget about them in the moment that it's my friend or employee's birthday. And so I'd like some tracker to help me remember. Now, I'm not sure why I couldn't just do this in Excel, the nice filter, but here we go. So the first thing is that they're asking me to basically sync and link a database. Great. So I go to sign up for this. I'm signing up for it. Looks like it's connecting. Oh, got an error. Okay. I'm gonna go fix that. Got to put in a public API key. Wonderful. And now it looks like we're off to the races, right? It actually shows me the preview, but not so fast. So when I click to sign in, I'm getting an error. It's not really working. So I continue to troubleshoot. I says, you know what? It doesn't work. Help me. And then I'm like, hey, are you asking me to sign in before you ask me to sign up? Maybe we should add a sign up. Okay. But then that doesn't work either. I'm still getting an error message. I'm not able to actually log in and use this gift tracker. And so I try basically to remove the whole authentication piece. I say, just write it out. And then I'm like, okay, maybe I just want to add a gift, but that's failing too. And so it's trying all these troubleshooting things. I'm like, hey, Bolt, please help, please think, please contemplate, I'm using all my prompting tricks to try to get it to actually problem solve what the heck is going on here. And at this point, it's been an hour and I still don't have any new gifts recorded. And I'm getting a little frustrated. And finally, after all of these error messages and attempts, I sit back, I look around, I think to myself, I take a deep breath, and I read more. So this is a user error. It's my fault. But I would also have to say some UX and UI designer really missed out on this. So basically, it was a show problems. And if you expand show problems, then you get to the idea that there is an error with the database. It was never really connected in the first place. Now, this may be obvious to a developer, but I'm not a developer. But it should have been obvious to a UI, UX, any kind of designer that, look, if you're getting an error message multiple times, maybe you should auto open the problems. Maybe you should have it in red. Maybe the headline shouldn't be maybe already resolved or irrelevant, or the CTA for connecting a database be discard. It is very obvious that this was built by engineers and kind of for engineers, even though it's specifically a no-code tool. So I would say the lesson from this is it's still important when we're developing these apps to have some essence of what is the psychology of the user in the moment and how do we help them achieve what they want to achieve. And it's very clear that this would have been a very simple problem for me to do if I just had a better error message. Great. So I've got this like cool little gift thing going on, but now I want to change the UI UX. And Bolt just says, I'll help you enhance the UI UX. And immediately it just enhances it. It says, look, I'm going to create a gradient. I'm going to have rounded corners. I feel like I was just mansplained my UI UX. Like that's actually not the answer that I want. And so that's one of the big punchlines here is that just because you can do it with AI, so basically AI is like, help me improve the UX. And it's just like, okay, I'll improve the UX. It's actually the thing that the user wants is to contribute to this, right? And so we've been talking a lot about this at Irrational Labs, but we have this idea called the egg effect, which is basically back in the 50s, women were using cake mixes for the first time, and these cake mixes would make making a cake very, very simple. You would just basically pour the cake mix in, pop it into the oven, and all of a sudden you had a cake. And it turns out that sales were dismal. As soon as a few marketers got a hold of this, and they said, look, how do we maybe make the sales go a little bit better? We're going to make it harder for people to make the cake by adding an egg. So you'd have the cake mix and you'd have to add an egg. Seems very simple, but at that point, you're going from just popping something in the oven to baking, right? You are part of the creation. And so this add an egg gave people, we can call it the endowment effect, we can call it IKEA effect, but it gave people some sense of ownership over the end product. And this is, I think, one of the kickers for AI products is that even though the AI may be able to add gradients and rounded corners, there's still value in asking the user, how would you like to design this app, right? How would you like to design this app? And by them contributing to it, they're going to value it more. Okay. And then the final thing here is that in the middle of this whole thing, by the way, this is what it looks like now, is that we have some filters and, I can add something. But in the middle of this whole thing, I hit a rate limit. And, I've already put so many sunk costs in that I could not pay for it. So while I'd love to critique Bolt for their pricing model, I actually think it's pretty good that you have these non-coders struggle a little bit, get so frustrated, and then you ask them to pay. And if they don't pay, then they've just wasted an hour of their time. And, you $20 a month. Okay, I'll do that. Wonderful. And now I have signed up for Bolt. So the pricing model here uses actually the egg effect, which is I put in some effort, I'm now committed, and now I will pay. Okay, the final thing I'll end on is that as a non-coder, the skill that I most think that I have to improve upon is my grit. So this whole time I ended up being very frustrated. I'm trying all these troubleshooting steps, not really making progress. Guess what? That's the life of an engineer. If you have ever worked in engineering or an engineer, you know that there's lots of bugs, lots of things to fix, and sometimes it doesn't work on the first, second, or fifth, or 20th time, and you just have to keep going. So if I were to give myself advice, or any of you out there, I would say for these no-code tools, we have to learn a little bit of grit ourselves. So hopefully you can enjoy the grit that you will build up as you build these tools.